Tomorrow, ministers will start an important discussion on concrete measures to reinforce our security for the longer term in all domains. On land, this could include substantially more forces in the eastern part of the alliance at higher readiness and with more pre-positioned equipment. We will also consider major increases to our air and naval deployments, strengthening our integrated air and missile defense, reinforcing our cyber defenses, and holding more and larger exercises. I expect we will task NATO's military commanders to develop options for our Madrid summit in June. Major reinforcements of our defense will require major increases in investment. I welcome that Germany and other allies have already announced they are stepping up, and I encourage all allies to spend a minimum of 2% of GDP on defense. We must do more, so we must also invest more to protect peace and freedom and uphold our values at this critical time. And with that, I'm ready to take your questions.
Okay, we'll start with CNN.
Thank you. I'm wondering whether you can say whether the NATO alliance has seen evidence that China has been providing Russia with any kind of assistance that would help it on the battlefield, whether that's military equipment or MREs, food for troops, anything of that kind. And also with regard to the situation that we saw earlier this week with Russia targeting a military base very close to Poland's border, I'm wondering what you can say about the kind of red lines and whether there would be any kind of consequences if a missile, for example, were accidentally to enter NATO territory or on purpose. Thank you.
So NATO's core responsibility, our main responsibility, is to protect and defend all NATO allies, 1 billion people in 30 different countries, and to ensure that we also do that now in a more dangerous security situation in Europe caused by the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. We have increased the presence in the eastern part of the alliance, we have increased the readiness of our troops, and we are deploying more capabilities, especially to the eastern part of the alliance. So an attack on one ally will trigger the response from the whole alliance, and we are there to protect and defend every inch of NATO allied territory. When we see more military activities, when we see actually fighting going on close to NATO borders, there is always a risk for incidents and accidents. And therefore we have to make every effort to prevent such incidents and accidents, and if they happen, to make sure that they don't spiral out of control and create really dangerous situations. We are very closely monitoring the airspace and the border areas around NATO, and our military commanders also have the lines to their Russian commanders to help to prevent incidents and accidents, and also prevent them from spiraling out of control if they happen. On China, so China should join the rest of the world, condemning strongly the brutal invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And any support to Russia, military support, any other type of support, will actually help Russia conduct a brutal war against an independent sovereign nation, Ukraine, and help them to continue to wage a war which is causing death, suffering, and an enormous amount of destruction. So China has an obligation as a member of the UN Security Council to actually support and uphold international law, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine is a blatant violation of international law. So we call on Russia to clearly condemn the invasion and, of course, not support Russia, and we are closely monitoring any signs of support from China to Russia.
We'll go to the National News Agency of Ukraine over there.
Dmitry Shkurko, National News Agency of Ukraine. Secretary General, NATO have a glorious story of supporting some countries and preventing bloodshed, for example, like it happened in Sarajevo, in Kosovo, and so on. What is the threshold for NATO when the Russian killings will overcome that threshold to NATO for direct involvement? And the short follow-up because of that, if you follow the Russian rhetorics, they are not going to stop purely in Ukraine. So that the question is, isn't it the right time for NATO to intervene, to defeat and to break the Putin's military machine while it sticks in Ukraine, while waiting when the Russian bombs will be falling to the European capitals? Thank you.
NATO allies have supported Ukraine for many years, and especially since Russia invaded Ukraine for the first time back in 2014. And NATO allies like the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada have also helped to train tens of thousands of Ukrainian forces, special operation forces and other troops. And they are now bravely fighting and resisting the invading Russian forces. And I think this support over many years have proven extremely important in strengthening the Ukrainian armed forces, and the Ukrainian armed forces are much bigger, much stronger, much better equipped, much better trained now than in 2014. And I'm glad that NATO allies have helped to achieve that with the training and with the equipment. Then, of course, it's first and foremost the courage of the Ukrainian armed forces and the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian political leadership that has actually enabled them to fight back, to slow down, to resist the brutal invasion conducted by the Russian Federation and which is a responsibility of President Putin. And it is President Putin who is responsible for this war. He can end this war now, withdraw all his troops now, and then engage in good faith in a political effort to find a diplomatic solution. So we are calling on President Putin to do exactly that. Then NATO's Ukraine is a highly valued partner, which we have supported and continue to support, and allies are also stepping up support, partly with military equipment, partly with financial support, humanitarian support, but also by imposing the sanctions, which is forcing, which are actually crippling Russian economy. Our responsibility as an alliance is to protect and defend all allies, and we are sending a clear message that we are ready to do so by increasing the presence in the eastern part of the alliance. But again, it is Russia and President Putin that are responsible for the invasion of Ukraine, and President Putin should end this senseless war by withdrawing its forces from Ukraine.
Okay, Politico.
Thank you. I'm Lily from Politico. Why do the U.S. and NATO insist that fighter jets won't be...
L-am ascultat pe secretarul general al NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, care a spus că apărarea are urgentă nevoie de mai multe investiții și astfel a încurajat aliații să ofere cel puțin 2% din PIB către apărare. Îți amintesc, România a spus că România va avea bugetul pentru apărare crescut la 2,5% din PIB din 2023. De asemenea, Jens Stoltenberg a mai spus că principala responsabilitate a NATO este să apere țările aliate și că a crescut trupele în partea estică a Alianței Nord-Atlantice. În ceea ce privește China, acesta a spus că ar trebui să se alăture restului lumii și să condamne violența și brutalitățile făcute de Rusia în Ucraina, care a adus multe morți, suferințe și distrugeri. De asemenea, aliații NATO au sprijinit Ucraina timp de mai mulți ani, spune Jens Stoltenberg, iar asta se vede acum în felul în care Ucraina rezistă curajos în fața invaziei rusești. Putin este singurul responsabil pentru acest război pe care îl poate opri oricând, a mai spus secretarul general NATO.